The leadership transition created another potential problem: maintaining control over the IRGC while the country was under direct military attack. Reports from the conflict suggested that some Iranian commanders appeared to operate with considerable independence from the political leadership in Tehran. Iranian attacks reportedly continued even during the period of leadership uncertainty, leading analysts to question how effectively the new leadership could control military decisions throughout the country. The conflict also inflicted significant losses on Iran's security and military establishment. Reports cited by international media claimed that more than 1,000 Iranian security personnel and IRGC members may have been killed during the campaign, although exact figures varied. Israeli strikes reportedly targeted intelligence facilities, IRGC positions, missile sites, weapons production locations, and other military infrastructure. The destruction placed additional pressure on an organization that was already dealing with internal concerns following the January unrest. By the spring of 2026, Tehran had therefore experienced two enormous shocks in a relatively short period. First came the domestic crackdown, which generated widespread anger and reportedly created psychological and disciplinary problems within the security forces. Then came the direct war, which damaged military infrastructure and resulted in the deaths of senior leaders and numerous security personnel. The IRGC was now expected to restore order at home, while simultaneously rebuilding its military capabilities. This background is essential when examining the individual attacks against its members that followed. One of the incidents occurred around June 30th, when two IRGC members were reportedly killed at their home in Paveh, near Iran's border with Iraq. Two other guard members were reportedly wounded. Iranian state media described the incident as a terrorist attack and said authorities were investigating who was responsible. The IRGC's own media outlet later claimed that its forces had intercepted a group allegedly connected to separatist organizations operating from Iraqi Kurdistan. These claims, however, were not independently established by all outside sources. Another reported killing occurred in Saravan, in southeastern Iran. An IRGC member and his wife were reportedly killed, with Iranian state television attributing the incident to foreign-backed actors. A human rights organization offered a different account of what happened. Meanwhile, fighting was also reported in West Azerbaijan province between the IRGC and members of the East Kurdistan Defense Units, a Kurdish armed organization. The group presented its actions as retaliation for the Iranian government's treatment of protesters during the 2022 uprising. Iran has also reportedly carried out strikes against Kurdish opposition organizations located across the border in Iraqi Kurdistan. According to opposition-linked reporting, these attacks targeted homes and offices connected with Kurdish groups and resulted in several deaths. These incidents demonstrate that the conflict surrounding the IRGC is not limited to Tehran. Kurdish and Baluch regions have experienced armed resistance for years, and those conflicts have increasingly intersected with the wider political crisis inside Iran. Another important element is the activity claimed by Iranian opposition networks. The National Council of Resistance of Iran, which is closely associated with the exiled MEK, has claimed that resistance units inside Iran carried out numerous operations against government targets. According to its reporting, dozens of operations were conducted in different Iranian cities, including Tehran, Isfahan, Mashhad, Shiraz, and other locations. The organization claimed that some of these operations targeted Basij facilities and other government-linked buildings. The same opposition reports described the burning of propaganda posters and attacks against symbols associated with the Islamic Republic. However, these claims need to be treated carefully because the NCRI has an obvious political interest in portraying the Iranian government as increasingly vulnerable. Some of its reports may be accurate, while others may be difficult to independently verify. The important point is that these claims exist alongside independently documented evidence of unrest, repression, and armed activity in several parts of Iran. The government has responded with continued repression. Reports have described executions of protesters and other individuals accused of security-related offenses. Human rights organizations have repeatedly criticized Iran's use of executions as a method of intimidating opponents. Opposition groups have described these executions as part of a broader campaign intended to prevent another nationwide uprising. Taken together, these developments suggest that the government remains deeply concerned about the possibility of renewed unrest. So, does all of this prove that ordinary Iranians are now systematically killing IRGC members throughout Tehran? The available information does not support such a broad conclusion. There is evidence of targeted attacks against individual guard members, armed clashes with Kurdish groups, opposition activity, and attacks against security installations. But these incidents should not automatically be described as a spontaneous nationwide uprising in which ordinary civilians are hunting IRGC personnel. What is much easier to establish is that the IRGC has faced an unusually large amount of pressure during 2026. The organization has suffered military casualties, lost senior figures during the war, faced attacks from armed opposition groups, and reportedly dealt with concerns about desertion and morale. At the same time, the government continues to rely heavily on the Guard Corps and other security organizations to maintain control over the population. Some analysts have compared the current situation with the final period of the Shah's government in 1978 and 1979. During that earlier period, Iran's security forces eventually struggled to maintain cohesion as protests expanded. However, historical comparisons do not guarantee that the same outcome will happen again. The Islamic Republic still possesses powerful security institutions, ideological networks, and considerable experience in suppressing dissent. The comparison is therefore best viewed as a warning about potential institutional weakness rather than a prediction of imminent collapse.